Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy, sharing with you today a sliding graduate Yoda on a platform pop-up. Is he not the cutest little graduating Yoda? I am using some ink road stamps and some Lawn Fawn stamps and some Tim Holtz products today. I am starting with the Baby on Board stamp set from Ink Road Stamps. I'm using that Baby Yoda image that is looking up. And then I'm going to pull in the Simply Celebrate Spring stamp set, and I'm just inking up one of those graduation hats. If you have a different set with different graduating hats, that would work just fine. I just thought that one sized fairly well to my Yoda. I used Copics for coloring today, so I used G99, G94, YG63, some RV11, and then some darker warm grade shades for my graduation hat and gown. And then for all of my cutout pieces. So my card bases were a little bit lighter weight today. I only used 80-pound Nina Solar Classic Crust cardstock because I knew I was adding a layer of cardstock on top of them. I will start with the sliding mechanism piece. I'm using some heavyweight acetate here and just figuring out where I want my slider to go. So I was thinking I needed my runner to go the whole length, but really my Yoda is going to be on the platform. I don't want him off the platform, and he's a fairly big die cut or critter to cut out. So if you're doing something with a smaller image, you might need to extend that. But because he was so large, I wasn't worried about extending it. I could just pop it in the middle and call it good. I will say you might want to add a little bit more height to yours than I had to mine. He's a little, I don't know, he tips a little bit because I think if I'd have made it the slider a little bit higher, he'd have had a little bit more stability there and wouldn't tip back and forth. I am using some sanding blocks. These are just sanding blocks from your local hardware store or home improvement store. Foam block with sanding grit on them. They work wonderfully. The silver I'm using here is Tim Holtz Silver Metallic on top of, I think it's craft cardstock. So I'm just kind of brushing off or sanding off some of that metallic, and then I'm going to add in some distress paint, and then I'm going to let this dry for a little while. So I did do the embossing folder or the 3D embossing folder before I cut it with the platform pop-up dies. This way it wasn't gonna, didn't want their shape to be altered by the embossing folder after I had already cut them. And so this way I could get the look I was going for without having to make sure, or, without them not fitting onto the platform pop-up base. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me. Yeah. So anyways, once the paint was mostly dry, it's not all the way dry, but it's mostly dry. As you can tell, it gets drier as I'm going here because it does not buff off as well the drier it gets. It soaks into any part that has been roughed up or that the paper beneath has been exposed. So if you want it to be a little bit darker and dingier, sand it a little bit more. But that gives it that aged metal look. And then I'm just going to cut off on all of the score lines here. So I selectively cut these pieces out. The only piece that really got flattened was that actual platform pop-up base piece where your images sit on, because that is a solid die or solid part of the die, where the other ones are open area dies. So it really didn't affect that embossed look. But the other ones, you could still see it. It really didn't affect the overall appearance, and you don't really notice it unless you're, rubbing your hand over it. I will add all of my pieces here. I'm going to put my platform pop-ups together, each half. I only added one T to my platform pop-up. I did not want one in front of Baby Yoda. And so to get away from that, I had one piece that I taped the piece to the back, or so it stayed in from the die cut. That little slit is just taped to the back on one of them. And I probably should have done the base, the piece base, or the base piece, the pattern piece, the silver piece, the metal on top of my platform pop-up before I put my tea in. So before I put it together here, I did not. Don't forget to do that. I mean, I made it work, but it took me a little bit more wiggling and finagling. And this one, see, I probably just shouldn't have cut this off. I should have just left it as long as I'd had it, and it probably would have been just fine. And then I will put these two together. I like to add glue to my double-sided tape. It helps hold everything together better. I've had one or two that have popped apart. Granted, some of them have gift cards in them, so, you know, there's a little bit more bulk to them in the middle. I find that if you just add a little bit of glue, it definitely secures that bond, and you don't have to worry about it. See, there's me trying to finagle it. I did finagle it. It's fine. But if you do that step beforehand, you don't have to worry about it. I'll try to remember next time I do this. I'll probably forget. I was not planning on putting anything on the back of this, so I did not color the back of this. I probably should have. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20. So I'm going to add this base piece or this add-on piece to the back. Did I achieve Millennium Falcon look or Death Star look? I don't know. It looks cool to me. That's all that really matters, right? Okay. The recipient thought it looked cool too. He's my Star Wars guru. He's the only reason that I know anything about Star Wars, because I've gone to all of the, you know, more recent video movies, so what, the last 10 years, probably. And then, yes, I do decide that I don't like the back, the brown. So I pull in, I did some paint, and then it just wasn't covering as good as I wanted it to. So I did some black soot spray ink just on my sponge dauber and then rubbed that on. And then hand sanitizer to clean up my workspace and try to get some of the black off of my hands. I'm pretty sure my hands were black for a good day and a half. And yeah. Well, okay, I couldn't tell if it was paint or dirt anymore, but you know, we'll go with it was paint. I am using a slider from MFT again. You could use 2 mini buttons here, a piece of foam adhesive that would fit and run in your slider mechanism. And then I just need a background, a back piece to help, you know, to hold it. So any circle punched piece of paper, anything that's going to be small enough for your die cut piece. If I'd have had another die cut Yoda that was the exact same size, I could have done that as my background piece. So I have this Star Wars paper from when my cousin had her little guy. We had a Star Wars baby shower for her because she might be semi-obsessed. And so I was like, oh, so originally this was supposed to be an A2 card with using this paper and my other background paper and, you know, getting some of my Yoda, my Star Wars paper stash used up. And yeah, then platform pop-up, gliding, sliding, Yoda, levitating Yoda, and yeah. And I got to play with my Tim Holtz embossing folders and paint and make a mess. So that happened instead. Anyways, so I liked this sentiment. All around us is to which we need to prevail, or something like that. Whatever that one said. Yeah, I didn't read it. I was yapping. I know, it's the card is nowhere near me. It's wherever my son put it after he got it. So I'm adding Yoda, adding some weight to keep Yoda from levitating off of the card base. And then I'm just going to add in, I had a piece of leftover scrap from when I cut all of the other things. So I'm going to cut and use that for my back piece here. I could have left that back tee out. You don't need to put in any tees if you don't want to put in any tees. I left the back tee in because I wasn't for sure what I was going to do back there. And so because I left it in, I added that piece, and then I continued to add because, you know, it was an option. Me playing with Yoda gliding across the card. Yep, I do a lot of that. I'm going to pull in a stamp set called Holiday Baby from Ink Road Stamps, and it has the sentiment Yoda best. So I will stamp this on some black cardstock. I'm just trying to find a nesting circle that is as close in size as possible to my sentiment here. And then I am going to do this twice because it's me. And so I figured, well, I have it already in there. I might as well do it twice. If one of them doesn't turn out the greatest, I have a backup plan. Picking out which embossing powder I wanted to use. So I'm going with a green. It's not the exact shade of green that I wanted, but it's close. And then because this font is so, those little lines are so skinny and the embossing powder did not want to behave, I just came in with a little pin and kind of retraced where those lines would be to remove some of that embossing powder. And then I will heat that with the heat gun here. And then I try to do like a pigment powder or a pearl powder over the top to give it a shine. And it just, when I buffed off the other, it did not stay on. And so I went and put it back in there and moved it a little bit so it gets a shadow. So I'm just restamping it with that clear embossing or watermark ink. And then I'm going to come in with that pearl powder, and then it gives it just a little bit of a shadow, like a glowy shadow or shimmery shadow behind it. And then I will add a acetate pick here and pop the Yoda vest on top of it. And then because I had two of them and they both turned out all right, I decided to put the other one on the back so it looks finished from the back side a little bit better. Making sure he closes up. And of course, I couldn't leave Yoda's eyes just stamped black. I had to bring in my jelly roll jelly glaze pen and add some black jelly glaze to it. It makes them shiny and puffy. And then once that is all dry, I will come in with a white jelly roll pen and just add a highlight to both of those. And then I ran to the computer, printed off a Proud of You We Are, and die cut that out using an Avery L sentiment strip. And then there is the finished card. And isn't he adorable? Graduating Yoda. Graduation went well, without a hitch. Party went good, I think. I don't know. It was a blur. It was, you know, a lot of people really fast. I had enough food, so that was all that really mattered, right? It was all good. So thank you so much for watching and subscribing and liking and all of the things. If you have any questions on what I used today, if I did not list it below or tell you in the video, please feel free to comment and I will get back to you as soon as I can. We are done rock picking, so hopefully I am a little bit more on top of things, but don't hold your breath. It's still summer and yep, we get busy. All right, take care. Have a good one. Thanks